that's the most important part of the equation. Is the internal question of asking yourself, is this experience serving my need for joy, my need for belonging in relationships and intimacy, my need for impact? Because if it's not, then it's hurting you. Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero? Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Recovery Secrets Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe, and I'm really excited to be here with you today to share a story about one of the clients that I saw a long time ago now, but a story that I think really gets you to understand why looking for happiness on the outside and trying to find it from external validation will absolutely never deliver. So when I used to run a rehab, I would get calls. I would get calls from people who heard about me, maybe through Google, or they'd see my videos or heard good things about my work because I work with a lot of celebrities and top-level people. And so I got one of those calls. And oftentimes on these calls, they won't even tell me who it is in the beginning. They're very hush-hush about it. And that's the way it was this time. They just asked me to come to a meeting. They gave me an address, and they kind of gave me an outline of essentially what we're looking to work with and what they were hoping to get done from the meeting. But that's about it. Oftentimes there's a little bit of curiosity, right, when something like that happens. So I get in the car after work. It's 5 p.m. I tell them I can't make it until after work, and I get in my car and I drive up into the hills of Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills is called that because it's got these big hills. If you ever watch 90210 or any of those kinds of shows, I'm driving up in these massive mansions overlooking the hills and overlooking LA and the ocean and all that stuff, and it's beautiful, beautiful places. Drive up to a gate. I have to ring the security, and it's a private house behind gates. They let me in. I just give them my name. They let me in. I drive up this really, really long driveway, and as I park, it's one of those views that you've seen in the movies all the time, right? Those views where just like there's nothing in front of that house in that yard. It's just views of all of LA, all the way to the ocean. Beautiful, beautiful place. I get met at the door by a security guard. He walks me into the house. On the way in, I walk through by the chefs and the assistants and all that kind of stuff. And the guy's actually not home quite yet, which actually happens a lot of times in these situations, right? They pay a lot of money and they don't care. And so I sit there on the couch and I wait. And as I wait, one of the assistants walks in and just readies me for who it is that I'm meeting. And obviously I can't use the name here, but this guy is literally the richest man in an entire continent. And so they gave me a little synopsis of where he's at right now, really struggling with drinking and pills, etc. And I'm waiting. I wait for the guy. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the work that I did with this guy, but I want to talk to you more about what I learned through the work that I did with this specific man. And this guy could have anything that he wanted in the world. I mean, literally within the first hour or two of us meeting, I was there for about 5 hours that first day. He was talking to me about what his life looked like. And if I can be honest, kind of a little boasting, which is interesting for somebody who could literally have anything he wanted in the world, that he wanted to show off on this. But, he was competing with other men in the world about who owned the largest yacht, about who was building the biggest hotels in the world. And yet he was waking up every morning and drinking and popping pills from the moment he was up, literally from the first moment that he was up. And what they were coming to me for was help, as usual, with that. They wanted help with the drinking. They wanted help with the pills. But I've talked about this before and how I see things differently. And I told them, it's not going to be that easy, guys, because I'm going to need to break down for him where things are missing, where there's lack in his life, if we're ever going to get at this, right? It's not as easy as saying to him, well, you need to drink less or you need to pop less pills. He knows that part. And so the conversation that I had with him over time are the things that I'm going to break down for you, You don't have to pay tens of thousands of dollars for this. And so what we worked on was really the fact that a lot of people don't pay attention to, are not mindful about what it is they're really looking for in life. Too many of us just buy into the standards that we've been handed down. I mean, if you look at commercials, you look at magazines, you look at movies, we get told this story of what we should be looking for. A lot of money, right? Money to buy anything that we want, money to walk into stores and get anything off the shelves, money to wear Gucci and red bottom shoes and big amazing leather coats that cost tens of thousands of dollars. And then we want to use that money to buy big houses, right? Houses with those, those circular, massive driveways with a butler that meets you at the front, maybe 5 or 6 bedrooms and a pool that Michael Phelps could swim in the back, a backyard that is just sprawling with the most beautiful grass you've ever seen, and just staff waiting on you hand and foot, and luxury cars, right? We want the really nice cars. We want the Lamborghinis. We want the Aston Martins. We want the Porsches. We want the Ferraris. We want the Bentleys and the Rolls Royces, maybe all of them preferably lined up. Some of them can have chauffeurs, but some of them we really want to drive because driving them fast will make us happy. And then what we want on top of all that is the beautiful girl or the amazing guy to go along with all of that, right? We see it everywhere. Every movie you ever seen, almost, every ad you ever see, that's what they sell you on. They sell you on this standard. And these are the standards that we've learned to believe make us happy. But here's the thing, right? We don't really want the money and the cars. I mean, this guy is proof of that, if anything else, and we'll get into that more deeply in a moment. But the cars, the money, the house, they're nice and they're fun, but they also become normal and you get used to them. And they never do the job of covering up how we feel in the world. What we want is the feeling that we believe those things will give us. We want the feeling that we believe sitting in the Lamborghini will give us. We want the feeling that walking into this massive house and being greeted by a butler will give us. We want the feeling that that beautiful boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife will give us every time they make us feel better and sexier and good about ourselves, right? That's what we really want. We want the sprawling lawn so that we can play maybe with our kids, but just go and have these beautiful games and enjoy ourselves. That's what we really want. But the thing is that we're looking for the validation of our life in things. And there's a really implicit message in doing that. And that is that we are not enough without those. Right? And so when we get the money, when we get the big house, when we get the cars, when we get the girl, if those are the things that we want to make us happy, then implicitly we're saying that we cannot be happy without them. And just think about that message for yourself, right? Because if we're not enough without them, there's also a fear that gets built the moment we have them, which is that we are only enough because of them. And that's where this guy was stuck. His money was handed down from a parent. I don't want to get into specifics so that I keep him anonymous, but that money was given to him through a family fortune. A lot of money, more money than any of us could imagine spending. The houses that he lived in were bigger than any of us will probably ever live in. The cars he drove and had access to, better than the ones most of us will ever have. But the problem was that those were supposed to be the sources of him feeling like he was good enough. And the fear was always that without them, he's nothing. And so what are the feelings we want? What feelings are we hoping to get out of that? Well, we want joy. We want to have fun and enjoy ourselves. We also want to feel like we belong. And then we want to feel relevant and important. We want impact. And let's go into that a little bit. Joy, right? I shared about this a little while ago, but so many of us have forgotten how to have fun. But it's something we crave. We've been craving it deeply since we were children. It's just that somewhere along the lines, we were told we have to be serious. And so the fun stopped. And for many, many, many of us, it never came back. And then we want the feeling of belonging, but really belonging, right? Being part of a group. There's a biological reason to this, right? When you touch others that you're close to and you hug and you feel close to one another, there's oxytocin release, etc. But all what we want in the general sense is we want to feel like we are a part of. And then we want impact. We want to feel like we're important. We want to feel like we matter. We want to feel like what we do makes a difference. And so what we have to become at is really good at actually connecting to the impact that our experiences and relationships create in our lives and adjust the way we live that way. But too often we believe that what others think of our outcomes and results are the truth, right? What others think of the car we drive or the house we live in or the money we have or the person that's standing next to us. We give that power over our own sense of truth. But if you think about it, those people have their own stories, their own internal representation of how life should look. And so we're allowing their judgment to dictate our reality. By paying attention to how other people react to our experiences and results, we actually rob ourselves of the ability to judge for ourselves how we're doing. We give power over to these other people. This watch is popular, so I need to buy it. This car will get women interested in me, so I'm going to go get it. I want the big house so that everybody in the neighborhood is impressed by me, right? If those are the messages, instead of these things provide me with joy, a sense of belonging or impact, they're just not going to provide the reward that we want them, and they're going to put us in this loop of caring so much more about what other people think about our achievements. But instead, what we have to do is get quiet and bring in practices that make it easier or maybe even possible for a lot of us to listen to that internal compass. Because that's the most important part of the equation. Is the internal question of asking yourself, is this experience serving my need for joy, my need for belonging in relationships and intimacy, my need for impact? Because if it's not, then it's hurting you. Now, I have practices like that. That's why I do the 5-minute journal every morning, which senses what am I grateful for? What am I looking forward to? What do I want? It's why I practice a little bit of meditation and exercise, right? So that I can get this sense, this alone time to tune in and pay attention. Honestly, it's one of the reasons why I record this podcast. Because I have to sit down and deeply think about the messaging that is important in my life. And these issues that I just represented, chasing outside validation, not paying attention to what we want inside, and living by other people's values are exactly why this client, even though he had everything that anybody could ever put on their wish list in terms of material success, had essentially zero satisfaction in his life. I mean, this guy, the house that I went to was essentially one of the most amazing LA homes that anybody could imagine. He rented it from an amazing celebrity friend that he knew. But he was always alone there, except for his staff. He was surrounded by people that he was paying to take care of him, completely isolated from any real friendships and relationships in his life. He dated and actually got engaged to some of the most attractive models and celebrities in the world, which he really told me about that right as we first met, because he wanted me to care, right? He wanted me to feel impressed by these things. The thing is, this real story follows that he actually got divorced first. And so the real intimacy, the real relationships that he had earlier in life, they were gone. And these new relationships were there to fill this void by being impressive to other people, but they all ended in firestorms. All he was craving for was to feel like he mattered, like he had impact. To feel like he had a deep, intimate connection with somebody who wasn't with him for his money. And to actually have some fun and enjoyment in life. But the thing is that literally all the money in the world couldn't buy that for him. Because he never landed on the principle that he has to pay attention to how it matters internally instead of what other people will think of it. Now, here's what I think the number one takeaway for all of you is. You have to find ways to build these 3 important aspects of your life and stop connecting them to the money or the impression that it leaves on other people. And when you get money, use it to reinforce those 3 aspects of your life. Use them to create better relationships. Use them to bring joy into your life. Use them to increase the impact you have on the world, but all of those in ways that connect for you, not in ways that matter to other people. And if you can follow this, if you can make this happen in your own life, you'll be happier for it and more satisfied than even the richest men on earth. And I mean that literally, because I've seen it happen dozens and dozens of times. This is just one story, but I've worked with so many people with the exact same version. So do me a favor. Stop paying attention to what doesn't matter. Put the focus internally, and you'll have more joy, more happiness, and more satisfaction than even the richest men on earth.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.